Bama goes into Nashville yesterday and gets upset by the Commodores 40-35 in what was the biggest thriller of the day, not just only in the SEC, not just in college football, but I do think in sports. If we look back this weekend, obviously Alabama falling to Vanderbilt, of all teams, is going to be the storyline all week. It's going to be the storyline today. It's going to be a storyline tomorrow until about Wednesday when we start turning the page to talk about what we think Alabama is going to look like. However, the Crimson Tide under Kalen DeBoer, after a massive weekend last weekend, beating Georgia at home, falls to Vanderbilt 40-35. Listen, when going back and watching this game and watching this game live, I think it's very simple to me on how Vanderbilt was able to come away with the win. Number one, Diago Pavia, the quarterback for Vandy, is just an outright ball player. Do I think the kid's going to go into the NFL and make waves? He's going to go into the NFL and make a team? No, I don't. He is a very, very good college quarterback. And yesterday, he put his team on his back to upset the number one team in the country. Multiple third downs. Diago Pavia was able to hit guys that were open. I thought that they were coached really well offensively. That's a whole different topic. But hit the guys open, stay inside the system, and able to extend plays that maybe I don't know if Alabama wasn't ready for, but they should have been, because that dude's an outright ball player. And they played inside the system. Look, the number one thing in this game that happened to Alabama was simple. Vanderbilt had the ball for 42 minutes and 8 seconds of time of possession. Not a mistype. You heard what I just said correctly. 42 of the 60 minutes of this game, Vanderbilt had the football. And they didn't do many things special. You know what they did? They lined it up with Diago Pavia and Alexander, and they hand the football off. Guys, Pavia had 20 carries. Alexander had 21 carries. They didn't go off. I mean, Alexander had 21 carries for 64 yards. But what did they do that won them this game? 3 yards in a cloud of dust. We're going to play action you. We're going to make you play disciplined defensive football. We're going to run option. We're going to run zone read. And to be real with you, Alabama was as undisciplined of a team defensively as I've seen them in a long time against an opponent that they have no business losing to. But we talk about the winners first on this show. Diago Pavia, that offensive line, the running game, and the coaching. Guys, Womack, the defensive coordinator for Alabama, got out-coached and got out-schemed all night long. Guys, there were multiple plays. There was a 3rd and 1 when the game was 33-28 at the end of the game. They hit him with a soft play action into the flat, and it went in for a touchdown. Like, guys, simple stuff. I mean, I know that in today's football, a zone read, tight end, wide receiver in the flat is more like a triple option. Quarterback can give it, keep it, or throw it. But that's the thing that happened all day long. The thing that most shocked me was just how well Vanderbilt executed in crunch time. They played not to lose the game. Vanderbilt played not to lose at all. And that's on Clark Lea. What they're building at Vanderbilt, guys, they are very well coached. They are very well disciplined. They don't worry about NIL. They don't worry about I say they don't worry about the portal, but you get what I mean. They are there to get better and win. And you would think, look, they beat Virginia Tech to start off the year. A lot of buzz around Vandy, but then they lose to Georgia Southern. They lose in overtime to Missouri. You're like, yeah, Vandy's really scrappy, but can they pull one of these off? And they did. Guys, it was always a foregone conclusion, the way that they played against Missouri, that they could be able to beat Bama at home, and they did. But the number one thing that Vanderbilt did, the game plan that they went into the game to do, we are going to keep the ball away from Jalen Milroe. We are going to keep the ball away from Ryan Williams, who is an outright dude. But Ryan Williams only had 4 touches yesterday. They were blanketing him. They were double covering him. Sometimes it didn't matter. And they played keep away. Guys, multiple times they were in third and short situations and converted, which is number 2 of how Vandy was able to upset Alabama. Think about this. Not only did Vandy have 42 minutes of possession time, they were 12 of 18 on third down. 12 of 18 on third down. That is insanity. What does that mean when a team offensively is able to go 12 of 18? Number 1, you executed at a very high level. And that was on display with Diego Pavia, with Alexander, with Eli Stowers, the wide receiver. Elite game by him, by the way. And they out-physicaled you. I can't believe I'm coming in here and saying this, but in crucial third down situations, Vanderbilt out-physicaled Alabama. They out-physicaled them. They busted them up inside. Guys, of the 12 conversions that they had on third down, of the 12 of 18, 9 of them came on third and fourth or short. 9! So they were getting in manageable situations and able to convert in those manageable situations and got out-coached and out-schemed. Vandy ran 75 plays yesterday and chewed the clock. It was just a masterclass of coaching and execution by Vandy. You can't take anything away from them. But the way that they started, we talked about this earlier in the week. I didn't think that what happened yesterday was going to happen. I'll be real with you. Had never remotely crossed my mind that Vanderbilt was going to be able to do what they did. And good on them. Good on them for proving guys like me wrong. But when I looked at Vandy and I looked at Alabama, guys, the pick 6 early in the game, Vandy goes down the field and scores, marches right down the field and scores, and then Vanderbilt gets a pick 6 on a batted ball up in the air, which I thought wasn't a bad decision by Jalen Milroe. The ball just how the ball falls sometimes. And before you know it, you're down 13-0, and you're like, oh, shite. What is going on here? What is going on? We're down 13-0 to Vanderbilt. That was a massive play. Massive, massive, massive play for the Commodores there. Last thing that I would say about Vandy before we get to Alabama here is this. On the crucial third downs defensively, now defensively they played a really bad football game, okay? I mean, look, you gave up 35 points. I say really bad, but you gave up 35 points to Alabama. That's not good defense. What did they do? When they needed crucial stops, when they needed a turnover, they got it. When Alabama was 30-28, and I tweeted this and was wrong, but I tweeted this. I'm like, this is where Bama comes back and takes the lead, and you're like, okay, college football comes back to the realistic nature of how things work. Capers, the defensive end for Vandy, comes off the edge, whiff job by the right tackle. Jalen Milroe doesn't see the pressure, gets sacked, fumbled. Vandy recovers. They go down and get 3 points. By the way, in that drive, they were able to take 6 minutes off the clock. 6 minutes. So it's not only that you turned the football over, it's that every time that Vandy got the football, and those 2 crucial turnovers by Jalen Milroe, every time that they got, and it's not really, the first one wasn't really completely on Milroe, but they were able to do what they needed to do. Let me get to Alabama. Listen, I don't think for Alabama that you can look at them and say, like, they're not still a really good football team. I know it's really easy to come in here today when they get beat by Vandy on the road and say, hey, Nick Saban came out a couple of weeks ago, said it was the easiest place to play in the SEC. I get all that. I know all that. I still think that they're a good football team. But what happened? They did not execute on really the defensive line of scrimmage. They didn't execute a lot in their secondary. You know, Stowers, the wide receiver for Vandy, punked them on the outside. Guys, they got punked and out-physicaled. I thought that they got out-coached from the beginning of the game to the end of the game. Now, offensively, they started making some plays. They came back. They got the score within 2 points. But defensively, they didn't have an answer. There were multiple times in the second half and even in the first half where you knew what Vandy was going to do. Triple option, I say triple option football, but either they're going to do a zone read, they're going to have somebody in the flat behind it, they're going to run an RPO, or they're going to run power in the running game. And if you can't stop it, we're going to lean on you. Guys, I felt like defensively, Kane Womack, that entire defensive staff, and that entire defense, for what it's worth, that front seven that was exceptional a week ago against Georgia, they got outcoached and outplayed. Guys, when I look at Diego Pavia and Alexander, the running back, and I look at that front seven for Alabama and that O-line for Vandy, there is no reason, zero reason why you should be pushed around the way that you were, and you got pushed around. I don't know if that's a lack of depth. I don't know if that's a lack of intensity. But the God's honest truth is, when you look at this game in crucial third down situations defensively, that's how you lost the game. You couldn't get off the field. Clark Lea and that entire Vandy staff had you pegged from the very beginning. They knew exactly what you wanted to do, when you wanted to do it, and they were able to out-scheme you on it. You had massive, massive times where you had a lack of execution because guys weren't hustling to the football. Non-Alabama football. Non-Alabama football. Why Alabama got away from trying to put a spy on or contain Diego Pavia is beyond me. You're getting lost in coverage. You know, Diego Pavia, for what it's worth, creates a play with his legs. He throws the ball up into a busted coverage, and it goes for a touchdown to Stowers. I mean, not a lot you can do with that, but you got to get Diego Pavia down. Defensively, you were horrendous. Absolutely horrendous. Sherrill, Stowers, Newberry, Alexander. Guys, they leaned on you. Vandy leaned on you. And good on that. Good on them. Offensively for Alabama, I thought it was pretty simple. I thought that they were able to come back and make some really good plays, make the game interesting. You know, they started off a little sloppy, which, look, man, I'm not trying to make an excuse for Alabama, but when you come off of an emotional high the way that they did against beating Georgia at home, you know, like I listened to a lot of people this week that said that, oh, Kalen DeBoer is the man for the job, and he very well may be. He very, very well may be. I thought that he was pressing a lot. You know, getting Ryan Williams 4 touches when you're down in the game is not – it just is not going to cut it. It's not going to cut it. You know, Jalen Milroe went 18 of 24 for 310. He did have the pick six, but had a touchdown. But you got away from running the football. You got away from running the football and keeping your defense on the sideline to give them a breather. Like, they were pressing. And I understand why they were pressing. I understand why they were doing what they were doing. I don't know why Kalen DeBoer got away from running the football. And listen, last week versus Georgia, a lot of people would say, well, Blake, they got conservative a week ago. No, they didn't get conservative a week ago. Guys, of the 12, I think of the 8 drives that they had in the second half, meaning Bama, they threw on them 6. They threw the football on 6 of those drives to start the football game off. Jalen Milroe still had a lot of passing attempts in that second half. You didn't get conservative. You got beat. Georgia figured something out and were able to beat you. And to be real with you, it's what Vandy tried to implement, and it's what they implemented early until Ryan Williams makes an insane catch down the sideline. Does that sound familiar? He did it a week ago. He did it again this week. I don't know, like, when you have an offensive-minded head coach, I don't know if no one's in Kalen DeBoer's ear saying, Coach, our guys need a little bit of breather. Can we run the football? I know that we're down, but can we establish the running game? They should have. Jam Miller had 5 carries, 45 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Why not lean on Vandy? Keep the ball away from them. I mean, look, I know that it's not a part of your game plan. I know it's not a part of what you want to do, and you need to get back in the game, but you did get back in the game. Having Justice Haynes and Jam Miller, who had 9 carries for about 78 yards, 9 carries, 78 yards, and 2 touchdowns between both of your backs, it's not good enough. It's just not good enough when you're having success. Guys, nine carries for 78 yards and 2 touchdowns by both of your backs isn't good enough. You got Jalen Milroe in the running game late. He was able to get a touchdown. He ran seven times 10 yards. Now, a lot of those are sack yardage and put it in there too. But you get in the red zone, you ran it with Jalen Milroe, and you scored. I mean, your defense got gassed. So, look, all in all, here's what I'd say about the game and just looking at both teams. If Vanderbilt, number one, let me say with Vanderbilt, and then I'll go to Alabama, and then we'll move on here. Vanderbilt is going to give other teams troubles. If you don't play disciplined football, if you don't play football the way that you need to, and you go into a game against them undisciplined, you're going to lose. They're going to punch you in the mouth. And there are a lot of SEC teams right now that should look at Vandy. And look, they play Kentucky next week. I think Kentucky is going to be able to beat them. Like, I think that they can beat them. The styles make fights. And what Vanderbilt tries to do plays into Kentucky's hands. But nevertheless, in any of that, they are a scrappy football team. The culture that has been built in Nashville by Clark Lea is insane. It's insane. They are going to out-coach you and out-scheme you, and they have players that give a damn. I know the Georgia Southern game sucks, and it probably shouldn't have happened. But listen, they have a bad loss to Georgia Southern. They have a loss to Missouri in overtime. But they beat a Virginia Tech team who was on the ropes against Miami, which Miami had to find another unreal way to win. Last night, I know most of you didn't stay up for that game against Cal, but they were on the ropes. They beat down a Virginia Tech team. You turn right around. Guys, they pushed Alabama around up front. They pushed them around. That's how they won the football game. Alabama. Look, your season's not remotely close to being over. Not remotely close. You still have very big football games that you have to play here. And the worst thing that could have happened to you is all the equity that you built up last week in beating Georgia at home is now vanished by losing to Vandy on the road. This is an outright disgrace if you're a Bama fan, and I know that's how you feel. Yeah, I know it's how you feel. Don't act like it's not. Season's not over, man. You have a 12-team playoff.